Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I am Evan Abrams, and I am joined, as always, on our recap episode off of a crazy, wild, the slate wasn't fantastic, and then the games happened, which absolutely insane day. I am joined, as always, by Brandon Anderson. Brandon, what's up? How are you, man?
Man, yeah, you said it. Like it felt like we got a lot of nonsense from games, but then we got to these moments in games, especially the witching hour in the early set, just some crazy endings. And then, man, monster Saquon game tonight. I needed this game tonight. I was struggling on the picks, but came through with the first half under and the Eagles hit. Got back to just barely under even on the day, despite going like 6-16 in the app for -1 unit or something. So it was a very topsy-turvy day for my best bets. Got a couple of those long shots and escalators. Missed. No more first quarter bets for me. I'm retired from first quarter bets. That did not go well. It was a wild day. I'm ready to talk some football.
Yeah, a wild day. And like you said, the first half under, which Raybon was on, a bunch of us were on. So good hit there. And then the game goes over, which even feels better. But let's talk about that Sunday Night Football. Philly at the Rams. And obviously, the Eagles cover the short spread 37-20. Game flies over at the end there with all of the Saquon stuff. But let's just kind of go one by one here. So the game opens with the Kyren Williams fumble. And anyone who's watched Sean McVay before says to themselves, all right, well, are we going to see Blake Corum? Like, this happened awfully early. And then obviously never seen Blake Corum. Kyren gets the majority of the carries. 13-7.5. Both teams looked all right with a touchdown drive or so. And then the second half starts, and literally the game wasn't the same again. Saquon, 70-yard touchdown out of the second half. Then we saw 3 straight touchdown drives, but 27-14, Eagles are up, and the Rams missed a field goal, and then the game was just basically over. Yeah. So the one thing I think that needs to be discussed, so Saquon Barkley has 255 rushing yards in this game. That is the second most in a night game in terms of what I found. Sean Alexander in 2001 had 266. That is it. And here's the real discussion that's going to be happening on Monday morning, which is the MVP market. So Saquon Barkley this morning before the games was 65-1 to win the MVP. He is now the third choice at plus 650. It is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley right now in the odds. And then after that, you have to go pretty much to Jared Goff, who is now after Saquon at 7-1, Mahomes at 8-1, and then you get to Herbert at 33-1 out of the question. Saquon Barkley is minus 320 now to win Offensive Player of the Year. So everything just shifting with this massive game. And I mean, if you look at his stats, first year on the team, most rushing yards we've ever seen from a guy moved over to another squad like this. 540 plus rushing yard games, 4 multi-touchdown games. And to me, really, the craziest numbers are what he's done this year in the second half. In the second half of games, 908 rushing yards. Wow. Right now in second in that category is Derrick Henry with 683. Over 200 plus more rushing yards in the second half. And that's with both of his 70-yard rushes tonight. So, and then the funny stats, which I feel like have to be discussed here, which is Saquon Barkley, more rushing yards than the Giants, not only today, but this season. So you just look into that decision more. But Brandon, in terms of Saquon, in terms of the markets themselves, what do you have to say here?
Yeah, I saw Saquon has a higher yards per carry on the season than the Giants have yards per passing attempt also. That's another fun one.
That's great.
So, that's good. Not a great day for the Giants out here. Tommy DeVito, not a great day. We'll get to that one. Yeah, I mean, the Saquon MVP thing is crazy. 65-1 down to 6.5-1, basically. Like, we took 90% of his odds away on the day. And look, probably a lot of that is liability. Probably that's just bets coming in tonight as the game is happening. The crazy thing is, we kind of keep sitting here saying, I've been saying, I don't know if I think it's Lamar. I don't know if I think Josh can finish it, but I don't know who to tell you who to bet. Maybe it's Saquon. Like, that's, I'm never going to tell you to bet a running back. Certainly, I'm not going to tell you to bet a running back at plus 650 at the peak price he's going to be. You can't do it now. Like, if you bought the ticket this morning, congrats, go to Vegas, like set up shop, get your lottery ticket in. You'd love to have a 65-1 ticket right now, given the momentum on where things are at. you can't invest right now. You can't buy the plus 650 after this game, over 300 scrimmage yards. The thing that's hard to parse here, he keeps busting off these long, like 70-yard runs where he just gets to the line, and the line blocks so well. They're so run heavy. He gets through one step untouched sometimes, and he's just gone. Like the talent takes over from there. We haven't seen a running back this talented with a running centric team and line this talented that often before. So I wore my Vikings jersey tonight, but I wore my Adrian Peterson jersey because that's the last running back or non-quarterback to an MVP. And that is the sort of numbers that Saquon is putting up right now. I think the path is there. And if it were to be a running back, they kind of break the rules of some of the other things too. They don't necessarily have to have like the QB wins and some of those other things. So, again, I'm not going to tell you to bet it, but I can't say I'd be loving having to fade it right now either. I still think that MVP race is open. The Eagles have a real shot to be the 1 seed in the NFC the way they're playing right now. They're just steamrolling teams. We've talked about that. Their defense looked awesome tonight. I think we're going to get all the focus on Saquon and the offense as good as they look. But that defense against a really talented Rams offense, like they got a lot of pressure up front. They held them in check. The Rams looked early on like they're moving the ball, and then the Eagles kind of adjusted after quarter and just, turned the faucet off for the most part. So just to me, Saquon's the fun story. The Eagles are the real story. Like the Eagles, to me, you could just make the case that they're the best team in the league right now. And I think we are seeming to be steamrolling toward an Eagles-Lions NFC championship for the ages. That would be a really fun game with pretty similar, similarly built teams. To me, that is the class of the NFC, and I don't know who else is even close. And I know my Vikings, I know the Packers, I know there are other teams record-wide that are close. I think the Eagles are making a real push here, and they're going to be tough for anyone to be at this point.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the total would be on a Lions-Eagles NFC championship game. That would be fun. I tweeted this out a few minutes ago, but Eagles with A.J. Brown 8-0 straight up this season. They're averaging now like 31 points per game. And even you think about it just makes them so much more dangerous. Not only have you added Saquon, but when A.J. Brown plays, when you have this multi-level offense, they're 35-10 with A.J. Brown active, 1-3 without him. I mean, it gets a little bit more complex than that, but still just really crazy. And the Eagles, they're 7-0 last 7 games, and Jalen Hurts has 18 touchdowns and 1 interception. When the line's playing that good, Saquon's playing that good, and they're not turning it over, it's near impossible to beat them. And looking forward, they get Baltimore next week. So if you want another moment for, Saquon to either step up or Lamar to step up, that's tremendous.
Henry.
Can't
what
wait
about Derrick Henry?
Or Derrick Henry.
Up? And I was going to say, like as a pivot, if you don't want to buy the Saquon hype, and if you want to fade it, rather than pivoting an MVP because he's still only third favorite, maybe playing some of those Derrick Henry like rushing yardage leader or touchdowns leader.
Henry's 100 to 1 to an MVP right now. So if you think there's even a shot, based off of, he's right there in yardage. Everything is pretty much even entering a matchup head to head. One guy's plus 650, one guy's 100 to 1. So take it for what it is. All right, let's move on here. Dallas at Washington is our second game. I didn't think I had this second entering the day, but it definitely ended up that way. Dallas upsets Washington 34-26 as a 10.5 point underdog, goes over 44.5. This was Dallas's biggest upset since 2010. They don't really get this big of an underdog often, but yes, 2010 was their last time. And I thought this was interesting. This was their first big upset for Mike McCarthy, who was 2-18 straight up as a dog of 7+ and 0-12 above a touchdown. So gets that first win today. What do you got here, Brandon?
Yeah, one of my worst look-ahead picks of the year. Let's start there. This was not good on me. I had Washington minus 9.5. To me, here's my takeaway. I got the CLV, but sometimes you got to get more than the CLV. I got on the right side of the 10. 10's not such a big key number. Got up to 11 at one point. I thought if the game had gone well last week, maybe we'd get towards 13. It was never happening. It didn't matter which one of those numbers you got. This game was never going that way. And I do think Washington should have won, probably. They probably should have won by a point if they hit their extra points. We'll get to that. But just not the right side. Lattimore, they traded for him. He still has not played for them yet. Their offensive line has been banged up. We might have hit the cliff here, but I think there's a lot more than just Kingsbury, than just Jane Daniels. But one of the wildest endings you'll see all year. A couple of these games today, like, to me, the story of the football today was just that crazy window of the crazy endings. So I kind of had just a little bit of play-by-play on a couple of these just to kind of rehash some of the ridiculousness that we saw. So on this game, if you hate special teams, this was the game for you. So let me tell you, just basically special teams, here's what you miss. Washington blocks the field goal on the first drive. Brandon Aubrey, like the god of kickers right now, gets blocked. Next drive, hits the upright. So we're already off to a great start. Austin Seibert, he's the Washington kicker. He misses a 51-yard field goal short. He missed a field goal short, a 50-yarder. What are we doing? It's 2024. Dallas gets a punt block. We're not even at halftime yet. We're already in special teams, just like terror zone. Settle in. We're just getting started. Washington scores touchdown, start the second half. They missed the extra point. Seibert missed another one. Dallas, they get a field goal. It's 13-9 with 8 minutes left in this game. If you bet the under, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm so sorry for everything you've ever done wrong in life. It's about to get ugly. Washington fumbles the next play. Dallas scores 20-9. We get a good Washington drive. They get the 2017. Okay, so we're getting a good game. It's interesting. More special teams. Washington kicks off. Kevontae Turpin dribbles the ball at the 4-yard line. He lets the ball bounce. It does this weird spin. Somebody posted that looked like he pressed the wrong button on the controller. Like he spun the wrong direction, and it confused all the defenders. And that dude's fast, and that dude's gone. 99-yard touchdown return. They're up 10 again. Washington gets a field goal. A positive special teams play. Look at that. They get a stop. They get the ball back with 21 seconds left on their own 14. And Jane Daniels throws another Hail Mary. He gets Terry McLaurin for an 84, 86-yard touchdown. Not really a Hail Mary, more of McLaurin after the play. They're down 7, so they get the game-tying touchdown. Oh, wait. No, they don't. Austin Seibert lines up for the game-tying extra point and shanks it. So we get that again. And as that's happening, and as the announcers are in shock of what's going down, they literally said on the broadcast, this is the worst special teams game in NFL history. On the next play, Washington tries an onside, and it gets received by Wanya Thomas and returned for a touchdown on special teams on the onside kick. So, if you're paying attention, that's the end of the game. We got a block field goal, block punt, 3 missed field goals, 2 missed extra points, 2 kick return touchdowns, and we're almost to the season. Partridge in a pear tree too. It was the whole thing. It was ridiculous. I mentioned the cliff wall. We're at the rookie wall, maybe on Jaden Daniels. First 5 games of the season, he led the league in EPA plus completion over expected. From week 6 forward, 21st. That is a huge drop-off. I don't know if it's the rib injury bothering him. I don't know if it's the Cliff Kingsbury wall. Our old man, the lonesome loser, dropped that in there. Washington, 3-game losing streak, heartbreakers to Pittsburgh and Dallas. Now they got destroyed by the Eagles in between. 7-5. The schedule is forgiving. They got Titans, Saints next, Eagles again, then Falcons, Cowboys. I think they're okay. It's probably them, Tampa, or some NFC West team. If you are a fan of the Rams, the 49ers, the Buccaneers, this is the team you're chasing now. This is the spot in the NFC. It's looking pretty open. Daniels did run 7 times for 74 yards in a score, but 2 interceptions, 4 sacks. It's not looking great out here. It did not look good on my look ahead. Did not look good on special teams, that's for sure.
Yeah, the 2 notes here, 3-3 at halftime doesn't usually ever get to 60 points. And then the second note is, and you talked about Jaden Daniels, the offensive rookie of the year market. Ready? Jaden Daniels, minus 150. Bo Nix, plus 125.
Yeah.
Welcome to week 13.
I knew we were going there.
Yeah, this is welcome to the new age. All right, next game, Minnesota at Chicago. It's the Jersey game. You've got it on. Minnesota beats Chicago 30-27 in overtime, pushes the -3, a lot of 3.5s out there. So some important late touchdowns for the Bears. Goes over 39.5. I think the story is still Caleb Sachs. He's 44 now through 11 games. And today, only 3 sacks is probably the way to look at it because they did put up a bunch of points.
They did, yeah. If you got the Bears early in the week, you got the cover. If you waited till just before kickoff, hope you got the 3.5 still, depending on the 3 where things were at. A little drama even in overtime too, right? The Vikings are driving and kind of settle for a field goal from around like the 10 or 12. A lot of bettors just hoping they'd get in the end zone and cover the spread either way on the Vikings side of things. So I had the first quarter bet. So I'm not going to mention all of these, but here's where this went awry. The Vikings, the whole thing is Vikings get the good script out. They get the scripted plays. So they get the ball, they march right down the field. I'm driving home from church. I put the radio on here in Chicago, ESPN 1000. I'm like, all right, let's check in on my first quarter bet. I get one play. I get a mid play. I turn on the radio and I hear, and that is Aaron Jones' first fumble in 167 carries career against the Bears. And I'm like, give me a break. He fumbles on the 2-yard line. The Vikings end up scoring the first play of the second quarter just to rub salt in the wound. Enough with the small sample first quarter bets. Failed experiment. My apologies. Vikings are up 24-10 late. Not normal for the Vikings just to be dominating in Chicago. Then they get stopped on 4th down in Bears territory. Get a long Bears touchdown drive. That's fine. That's just what you want them to do. Chew up the clock. The Vikings go 11 plays. They get a field goal, back up 11. And then I have it in my notes, 21 seconds left. I think that the Washington touchdown was 21 seconds also. Did we get like 2 miracle long touchdowns with that same amount of time? They get a 2-pointer to DJ Moore. They recover the onside kick because the Vikings guy got it hit on his foot. More special teams fun. 27 yards to DJ Moore. Our guy showing up. They get the field goal. They go to overtime. Couldn't do much there. John Parker Romo, a guy I definitely had heard of a few weeks ago, hits the walk-off winner for the Vikings. We played the DJ Moore escalator. One of the few bets that did go well today. Got the over 4.5 easy. Got the 7 in overtime plus 245. Wish the 2-pointer would have counted as well. We could have taken the 8, but that one doesn't officially count for the stats. They play on Thanksgiving. So if you like the DJ Moore escalator, you might go back to that. You mentioned the sacks with Caleb Williams. I think he made some really good throws too. The sacks definitely are a problem, but he's hitting guys in stride. He's dropping the ball in the bucket a few times. He got out for a couple nice runs. I think if you're a Bears fan and you see these last 2 weeks with the new offensive coordinator, you got to feel pretty good. Like, it's fine. It's fine to lose. You want to beat the Vikings. It's a rival, but you're just getting a better draft pick now anyways. What matters is what Caleb is doing, and it looks a lot better now. Jalen Johnson put Justin Jefferson in his pocket. That's good for the Bears also. Minnesota, 9-2, but they've just beaten the Bears, Titans, Jaguars, Colts. I don't know how excited you should be about 9-2 against that effectively. Their games left are one more Bears game, 5 other games against teams 500 or better. I'm hearing a lot of analysis this week from my favorite podcast listening to about just everybody's on the Vikings. This is a real team. They're putting them in that top of the NFC threat. And I know I'm like a sports nihilist. Everything is the worst at all times for Minnesota fans. So I can't be like fully clear on this one. I just don't know if this team is quite there. Offensively, they don't measure up. The defense is really good, but let's see the defense against these teams, the Packers, against the Lions, against the tough schedule coming up. Let's see how this holds up. Sam Darnold seems to be kind of inching in the wrong direction here. So big win for Minnesota. Not great that you need to get to overtime in a game that you were dominating. That's kind of my takeaway here.
Yeah, it's hard to love Minnesota when you don't love the head of the ship, which is Darnold. That's just the way I look at it. Everything else around him seems just fine, and the defense is obviously very stingy, and I love Flores, but I just don't love Darnold. And so, I mean, the record's fantastic, and we'll talk about Green Bay in a second. But all right, let's get to my big stat of the day here, which is kind of twofolded. Big dogs today did have a good day. So 3-1 against the spread over a touchdown underdog. Now, we also talked about the fact that double-digit favorites were 5-0 ATS entering today. Then Kansas City and Washington both lost against the spread. But here's the real note, I think, which is fun. So NFL underdogs of 6+ points are now 36-23-2 ATS this year. But the real stat, on the money line, they've won 19 games, 19-43. Through 12 weeks, that 19 number for 6+ point underdogs is the most since 2004. So big dogs not only covering, as we talked about, 36-23, but winning outright. All right, let's go to the best of the rest here. We're going to go a little bit quickly. Tennessee and Houston. Oh, look, another upset. So good
Yeah.
segue there. Tennessee upsets Houston 32-27. Little fun safety at the end there as an 8-point underdog. Total goes over 41. This trend just tends to keep following CJ Stroud. He is 8-4 ATS as an underdog and now 6-11 as a favorite. What do you got here, Brandon?
Yeah, I think probably our most entertaining game of the day. Not that anyone gets real excited about a Texans-Titans game, but it was the one game that was back and forth. Like, both teams scored every quarter in this one. Hilariously, I had, when we recorded Best Bets on Thursday, my top bet that I wanted to make was the under 42 in this game. And then I had it in my notes from the night before, and by the time we hit record, it was down to 40.5, and I scratched it because we missed the key numbers. Thank God, because what do we get? 59 points in this game here? Tennessee's terrible special teams gives up an 80-yard return out of the opening play. Houston scored a touchdown on the first play. Then I look up and suddenly Houston's down 17-7. Like, Will Levis is slicing and dicing this passing defense here. Stroud was terrible in this game. He had a really bad interception, led to a field goal. He had another bad interception that led to a pick six the other way because Will Levis, the gift that keeps on giving. Houston kept giving up big, long touchdowns. Chigakonkwo gets the 70-yard touchdown. And then the heartbreak. Fairburn, really good kicker usually, misses a 28-yarder that should have tied it. Then they get a safety, like you said, with like the last minute or so. Will Levis throws 3 touchdowns, 1 to the wrong team, kind of the usual for him. Got sacked 7 times in the first half. Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson combined for 5 sacks in this game. They were all over the place, but the crazy thing is, you lost the game. You got gifted a 7-0 lead on the first play of the game. You have 7 sacks at halftime. You're home against the Titans. They got out yardage by over 100 yards here. Texans offense did nothing outside of a few Nico Collins plays. Stroud was bad. Mixon 14 runs for 22 yards. Just nothing happening there. Look, we've talked about it before. I think the Titans defense is pretty good. You can't do this. The Texans are 7-5. They've lost 3 out of 4. They've lost 4 out of 6. However, AFC South, we're still up 2 games plus a tiebreak on the Colts. We'll see. You still play Miami. You still play the Chiefs. You still play the Ravens. I think it's probably just an ugly 4 seed. I think that's where we're at because nobody else is stepping up. I haven't given up on the Colts yet. We'll get back to that in the hot read, but I think I have long since given up on the Texans. This is just not a game you can give away like this.
There's just no sense of consistency in anything Houston does, especially with Stroud game to game. And I think second year, third year, it's what you're going to look for. It's like, can you do this week in and week out versus, some duds, let's just call it. And again, Levis and Tennessee also put up 30-plus points, so kind of works both ways. All right, Arizona, Seattle. Seattle beats Arizona 16-6. Closes Seattle +1 at home as it was bouncing around, as we talked about on the Best Bets pod earlier this week. Goes under 46.5. I mean, off the bat in the first half, Geno, 5 incompletions, played great, but got sacked 4 times. He was getting hit all over the place, and Arizona just couldn't run the ball at all. They were 7 of 28, 7 carries, 28 yards in the first half, and they ended just 14 of 49, 3.5 yards per carry. Arizona couldn't run it. Seattle couldn't run it. And then from Arizona's point of view, McBride has a fantastic night. 15 targets of the 34 total targets coming from Kyler. Half the receptions, 12 of 24. Almost half of Kyler's yards came from McBride as well. And then you kind of just saw both quarterbacks do what they do. Kyler had a terrible third quarter throw in the red zone that led to a pick 6 going the other way. Then Geno comes down, throws a terrible red zone interception. It's just back and forth and back and forth. And I think we both see it with these quarterbacks week in and week out. And the stat that I love. So Kyler and Geno combined, when their teams are above 500 in November or later, so your team's good, you're trying to make a playoff run, they are combined 7-24 against the spread when their teams are above 500 in November or later. Kyler's now 4-13 and Geno's 3-11. That's just what you get with these guys. They bring you up to a certain point and they always let you down. And that's kind of the way I felt here. But listen, we talked about this on the Best Bets pod. Seattle's in first. They're in first in the division. So the futures bet we were talking about, it kind of led up to this point.
Yeah.
Now anything can happen from here, but they're in prime position after that win, and especially with the Rams loss tonight, it's a great day for Seattle.
Yeah, I feel good. I did not play a lot of Seattle. I had them in parlays and things this week. I ended up just not actually playing just the money line or side. The reason I did that is because I'm way overinvested already on Seattle futures, and this has been a really good 2-week stretch for Seattle to beat San Fran and Arizona. That defense is looking really good. Offense could do a little better, but I thought the defense was great today. Great against all 3 division opponents now coming out of the bye week. And so I think Seattle stock up. This team is rounding into form. The reason I have some hope, despite the Geno stats, I don't dispute them. Geno's playing pretty well, but he also throws that crippling interception. I just think the defense and the coaching is really good and is going to round into form here, and it seems to be doing that. So Seattle futures, I think I have like 3 bet playoffs and division at this point. So I don't need any more money line bets. They're already winning. Although I guess I pretty much took one against the Jets next week. Seattle's favored now against the Jets. Thank God we moved that one in the right direction.
Yeah, we still don't know what's going on in New York in terms of the quarterback. At least what you know with Seattle is they're going to throw the ball a ton, so they should be able to put up points even if they only did put up 16 today. All right, Kansas City at Carolina. Kansas City barely survives Carolina. 30-27 on a last-second field goal. Carolina covers the 10.5, which is important to a lot of people, and the total goes over 43. Really, the story here is just another close win for Kansas City, who is now 6-0 straight up as a 6+ point favorite this year, and 0-5-1 against the spread in those games. Just absolutely unbelievable, incomprehensible to be able to go 6-0 and 0-5-1 and still be where Kansas City is. What else do you have here, Brandon?
Yeah, Chiefs are on a 5-game losing streak against the spread. Definitely not a stat you would expect from Patrick Mahomes and this team, from the team that we were possibly betting to go undefeated as recently as a week ago today. That's not what you're expecting. 20-6 at halftime. It seems like they are pretty much in control. Even that, they settled for 2 red zone field goals. It could have been even more. I looked at just the classic Panthers opponent team total over in the first half. I thought about that here. It's telling that I didn't play that one because I don't have enough confidence in the Chiefs offense. They hit it. They got to 20. So we might be back now on the Panthers stat. I think the other side of the ball is where I really have to have the takeaway here. The Panthers scored 27 points on the whole thing we've said is Mahomes, he'll round into form later. Kelsey will get there. That defense, though, the defense is so good. The Panthers scored on 6 out of 8 drives on the Chiefs today, including with the game on the line. Basically, they marched down 5 plays, 49 yards for a touchdown and a 2 to tie the game up. Now they gave it right back away. Mahomes did Mahomes things, scampers down the sideline, 33 yards, field goal, game over. Kansas City defense has been slowly fading. Jalen Watson, their young cornerback, they lost him like a month-ish ago. They have not been the same without him. The metrics have put them closer to maybe top 10, even closer to league average. And I think after this game, certainly DVOA and some of those numbers that take opponent into account are not going to like what the Carolina Panthers just did to them. I think the defense is fading. This is an underwhelming Chiefs team right now. I don't like having to say that into a microphone because you can get clipped into oblivion when Patrick Mahomes does Patrick Mahomes things. This just feels like last year's Eagles to me. The team that keeps pulling wins out of their butt against not great opponents. And I know it just feels like Mahomes will just do that forever because he has done it for his entire career forever. Last year alone, we saw them not be a great-looking team, and then they won the Super Bowl anyways. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this as an analyst. Patrick Mahomes just over everything and all the other formulas break. That's sort of what it seems like. I just feel like this is headed the wrong direction. I know Pacheco back soon. That should help with the run game. Credit Carolina. Bryce Young looked really good this game. I think they finally are getting him in the right direction there. The metrics are pretty similar. Bryce Young and Pat Mahomes in this game. Again, not the best thing you want to hear if you're betting on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I don't know. I'm worried. We get them Black Friday, another huge favorite. We're probably going to get a similar looking game. That's kind of how these things go against a division rival. I'm not touching that game. I will be watching. I don't trust the Chiefs right now. We're going to have to see them do something to prove me wrong, which is, I guess, just keep winning every week, no matter how bad it looks.
Yeah, at the moment, that Black Friday game is up to a 13-point favorite since we'll talk about in a second, but Gardner Minshew is out for the season with a broken collarbone, so we still don't know who's going to be starting on that Raiders side. Now, speaking of Black Friday, before we move on here, a quick announcement. Action Network is running back our annual Black Friday sale, offering our best price of the year on a year-long Action Pro subscription. So if you aren't a Pro subscriber, visit actionnetwork.com/Black Friday to go get your $40 off a year of Pro and receive instant access to all the picks, all the projections from Brandon Anderson to Chris Raybon to Stuckey and our whole Action Network team. That's actionnetwork.com/Black Friday for the best price of the year on Action Pro. All right, let's go quick. End of the slate here. So San Francisco, Green Bay. Green Bay covers the spread easily. 38-10 is a 6.5-point favorite against the Niners. Total goes over 44.5. Really, San Francisco, without Brock Purdy, without Nick Bosa, without a bunch of different weapons throughout the game, scores 10 points in about 10 drives. That's really what you had here. San Francisco couldn't figure out much to do on the ground. CMC had 3 carries for 4 yards at the half. All of San Francisco's rush attempts was that in the first half, ends with 11 of 31. And then the first half, San Francisco had less than 10 minutes of possession, while Green Bay had over 20. The game was basically just over at that point. San Francisco has 6 games left. None are easy. Detroit, Buffalo, Arizona, Rams, Chicago, Miami. That is brutal. And Brandon and I feel like on every broadcast we've done since like week 3, 4, 5 have been talking about the fact that San Francisco is going to fade. And at this point, they are 8-9 straight up in their last 17 games since Christmas of last year. You know, injuries are a big part of this, but this is kind of just what San Francisco is right now. Now, obviously, there's talented parts here, right? Like Kittle had a good game. You see some sparks from Debo, but the defense is hit up. The offense can't find any rhythm, especially with Purdy out in the shoulder. You know, it is what it is. Maybe we'll see him next week. The thing I thought was interesting, and this is me just kind of throwing Kindle into the fire, but Shanahan career straight up. He is 68-30 with Purdy and Jimmy G and 9-31 with all other quarterbacks. This is kind of what you get. They don't overcome things. They don't win a ton of times as underdogs. They play decently as favorites when they're better than other teams. They're now 2-9 against the second half spread this year, losing 9 of the last 10. And they just keep fading because the defense isn't as good as it was. So to me, that's a San Francisco story. And from Green Bay's point of view, we finally got a good game. They broke a 4-game ATS losing streak. And, you know, amazingly for Green Bay, sorry, but you won, but so did Minnesota. So did Detroit. You're 8-3 and still in third in your division. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's tough. San Francisco, no Purdy, no Trent Williams, no Nick Bosa. I don't think it's quite as bad for them as it looked today. I will be coming back to San Francisco in the hot read also, so we'll get back to them in a second.
Love that. All right, Tampa Bay at the Giants. Tampa Bay just absolutely dominated. Before Malik Neighbors even saw the field, basically, it was 30-0. The final score, 30-7. They cover as 6-point road favorites. Total goes under 40.5 here. What else do you have to say here, Brandon?
Yeah, we hit the hot read under. It was a little shaky there for a minute, but they kind of petered out near the end. This was the full Baker. Baker Mayfield, we got the spinning touchdown run. We get the Tommy DeVito touchdown celly. Like, what are we doing? We're taunting the backup Giants quarterback, I guess. That's what we're doing. He, like, dives headfirst into a pile for a fumble and, like, gets a weird head injury. At one point, he ran, like, 50 yards down the field mid-play to block somebody, like block for his own teammate. But just, like, 3 other quarterbacks in the league might do something that stupid. And it's just, like, that's the Baker play. Like, he's going 150% on every single play. He's got to have fun watching it. This was as dominant as look. Buccaneers had more than 200 extra yards compared to the Giants. DeVito, I don't know exactly how we bet this necessarily. 4 sacks today. He had a 17% sack rate last year. That is more than once every 6 dropbacks you're getting sacked. He had 5 or more sacks, 5 out of 9 starts. So, again, another Thanksgiving team here. If you want to bet like a Micah Parsons sack, or if you can get a sacks escalator for the right player, I'm not sure if it's Parsons. He's been hot and cold, we know, but the right team with the right pass rush is going to make Tommy DeVito's life pretty miserable. That's how this looked today. Bucks 5-6. They got Carolina next. They got the Raiders after that. Hope you got that plus 700 division ticket. They're looking live. They are a pretty good looking team despite all the injuries still.
And the thing about Baker and the Bucs, they're going to be there every week. Doesn't matter who it is. Yep. Doesn't matter the competition. They're always going to play hard and score some points. And honestly, some consistency out of Baker is nice to see after where he's been in his career. Denver at the Raiders. Denver beats the Raiders 29-19 in Vegas as a 6-point road favorite. Total goes over 41.5. Really, the story here was just a story of first half and a story of the second half. Because in the first half, Denver had no sacks. Minshew was comfortable. They led 13-9. Amir Abdullah was all over the place. 6 carries, 4 targets, a touchdown, with no Madison or White on the Raiders side. And then the second half starts. Minshew has a turnover. Leads right to a Sutton touchdown. And then nicks to Sutton again. And then, honestly, at that point, the Raiders just couldn't find enough offense to get back into the game. And then you had the injury where Minshew is now gone, broken collarbone. You had Desmond Ridder come in. And then all of a sudden, Desmond Ridder, end of the game, drives all the way down to the goal line, gives it to Trey Tucker, gets all the way down to the 1. And then, of course, Desmond Ridder does Desmond Ridder things, gets sacked, and Denver gets saved on the cover at the end, right there. One of the more, cover fun plays at the end of the game today. The stat to me that's crazy here from like a Raiders point of view when betting them week to week, they have now fallen behind by double digits in their first 11 games of the season. That hasn't been done in 30 plus years at this point. So every single week, Raiders fall behind. They don't have enough offense to get back in the game. And now they don't have a quarterback. So just an absolute mess. The fun thing from Denver's point of view, they haven't beaten the Raiders in Oakland or Vegas since October of 2015 behind Peyton Manning. So this is truly a next level victory for a team who went over their win total last week for the first time as well since that 2015 season. 0-7-1 or so since that mark. So just a completely different Denver team. They're now 6-1 on the road too against the spread, showing up all the time there. So I think Denver's for real. And then next week, it's a great one. Cleveland at Denver on Monday Night Football, which is just complete chaos with Jameis going to Denver. But can't wait for that one. All right, let's keep rolling here. Detroit at Indy. Detroit dominates Indy 24-6, covering the 7-point spread on the road. Goes under 50.5. And honestly, from Indy's point of view, you almost say to yourself, like, what could have been? You had a short touchdown drop by Ogletree. Doolin falls, doesn't get his feet in bounds on like a 40-yard pass. You had a 30, a 20, a 20, all these plays taken back, nullified by penalties. So I feel like Indy kind of had their shots, but Lions, again, they're 42-15 now against the spread in their last 57 games since November 1st, 2021. They just can't stop covering.
Yeah, the Lions are a wagon. Jared Goff with the Lions now indoors, 33-11 ATS, 75% cover rate as well. So get ready for that Thanksgiving bet. Get that one in if you haven't already. Lions, 37 minutes of possession, more than double the first downs, 122 yards more, 23 more plays. Just demolition on every level. To me, a takeaway for you on the Colts side, Anthony Richardson, kind of looking like what we saw early on in one way, 11 of 28 as a passer. No sacks, no fumbles. No, I guess he had one fumble, you recovered it. No sacks, no interception. That's good. 14 ADOT, minus 14 CPOE. You can't live that way. You're just chucking it up for grabs and hoping that you get some of these long shot plays come through. Here's the part I do like. As a bettor, if you follow on the app, hopefully you do, late ad for me, Richardson 10 plus rushing yards. We got an alt line on that. I think it was like 250 or something. He hit it. He got 10 rushes on the nose, 10 for 61. Here's the thing I noticed. I was watching Colts, what they play last week, Colts Jets, I think, watching that back like Saturday, kind of prepping for the week. They're just getting more designed rushes. I think Richardson ran on the second play of the game here. They're getting more off tackle type stuff. First month of this season, he was not running that much. They were not giving him a lot of design runs. I think because he missed so much last year. They want to keep him healthy. That's who he is. Like, if you're going to have Anthony Richardson, you got to have him run truck dudes and get his speed and his size out there. If you just don't count the first month of the year before he got hurt and missed some time, he's only had now 6 other healthy games in his career where he played the whole game. He's run at least 10 times, all but one of those games. And the rushing attempts line for today was 7.5. 10 was an alt line. I think there's room to keep playing that one while the books adjust to that one. So watch for Anthony Richardson on the ground. That's a good prop to keep an eye on.
I like that too. All right, let's keep going here. New England at Miami. Miami dominates New England. The score doesn't even give it justice. 34-15 as a 7.5-point favorite. Total goes over 45.5 on a last second-ish touchdown by New England. And honestly, Dolphins have just dominated this series. Miami's covered the spread in 9 straight games versus the Patriots dating back to December of 2020. What else you got here, Brandon?
Not much, honestly. 31-0 into the fourth quarter until we got some garbage time. Second straight week the Patriots have done that. Dolphins, I'm not really still sold that these are the Dolphins they're supposed to be. Obviously, they did great here, but I think this was a Patriots thing. Dolphins are still not getting those explosive plays, and that's the thing that's supposed to make them so special. They are 5-6. They're great now against the Patriots and the Raiders. We still got Green Bay, Jets, Texans, Niners. We get them Black Friday. No, not Black Friday. We get them Thanksgiving night against the Packers. I haven't bet this one yet, but I think the Packers look a little more real to me than the Dolphins. That game, I think, is going to be really telling on where both these teams are headed. I'm not sold yet on the Dolphins just being back now, just from this game. To me, we saw the Patriots look this bad against the Jets once before, and how the rest of the Jets season go from there. So, again, Patriots, they'll be coming up again in the hot read as well in the Colts game. And you can probably guess which direction at this point I'm going on that one.
Yeah, I am going to give you a little bit of a tease on something because my article this week is going to come out and we're talking about Miami and Green Bay. And Miami, and that game in Green Bay on Christmas is supposed to be about 27 degrees or so. And that just hasn't been good for Tua at all in his career. Let's see. Tua's played 40-degree temperatures or colder 4 times with Miami. They're 0-4 straight up, failing to cover the spread by 18 points per game. And Miami in general, 32 degrees, freezing or colder, 11-28 straight up in franchise history. So just not a friendly spot for them in Green Bay on Christmas, but on Thanksgiving.
On Thanksgiving.
But yeah,
you and I both have trend stuff coming out. I like all 3 of the Thanksgiving games for possible hot reads. I just didn't put them in now because we're going to be talking about this again like Tuesday night to come out Wednesday. But yeah, I'm guessing at the exact numbers on this trend. But another trend that I have on Thanksgiving is if you just don't count Dallas, you don't want to bet Dallas on Thanksgiving. Anyone else, you bet the favorite. And I think favorites are something like 30-10 or something close to that ATS in the last couple decades. So yeah, I think it's setting up for a very nice trend spot between bet the favorite. You want to bet the public team usually on Thanksgiving. You get the cold weather here. Yeah, I think it's a good spot probably for the Packers and just trying to get the best line out of that one.
We're going to have a ton for you guys, so just check it out on actionnetwork.com. But let's get to Monday Night Football now. So Baltimore at the Chargers on Monday night. And I'll give you a few trends and a pick that I'm going with before I give it off to you here. So Monday Night Football overs have been the way here. 10-4 this year, going over by 5.8 points per game. And then it's just simply Lamar. With the short line, this is his spot. As a favorite of 3 points or less or an underdog, he is 25-6 against the spread in the regular season. And in night games, he is 19-5 straight up. That is the best win percentage for any quarterback in the Super Bowl since the merger. And my bet, I like Dicker the kicker, over 1.5 field goals. He's had 1 field goal in 9 to 10 games, over 1.5 and 70%. And really the angle here is Baltimore's defense. They've allowed the 3rd most field goal attempts and field goals made. Opposing teams, 19 of 36 in the red zone versus Baltimore. And last year, basically the same numbers. So I think it gets there. What do you like here?
Yeah, I took the Ravens side. I took Ravens -3 on the look ahead. So we lost the key number here. I don't love that, but I do still like the Ravens in the spot here. Certainly get the 2.5 if you can get it. I don't mind it still at the 3 if it gets back there by kickoff. I think it's a really important game for Baltimore. You got to have this one. After the way that they have played recently, they can close ground on Pittsburgh, who lost on Thursday night. And you kind of have to care about how you're doing against the Chargers, too. You lose this one, you're the 6th seed behind the Chargers, who are going to have the tiebreak on you. You might fall behind Denver. You might fall out at that point, the way things are going. So it's a big spot. It's the Harbaugh Bowl, obviously. I think the Chargers defense got a little bit exposed Sunday night against Cincinnati last week. Baltimore's offense is even more explosive and better that way. So I like their ability to score here. The Chargers, we know, want to run the football. That's not going to happen here in this game. Herbert's going to do some stuff, but I think Ladd McConkey is a real key here, and he's not necessarily good to go in this game. The Ravens are dead last DVOA against wide receiver 1. So if he's healthy and ready, I think the Chargers maybe can hang, but we'll see what he has to give, and if Herbert can do this another big primetime spot. He's been so good lately. Part of the reason I didn't mind the -3, Baltimore's last win, they beat the Bengals by that 1 point when the 2-pointer didn't come through. Their last win by less than 3 before that game was December 2022. Like you said, it's that 3 number. Basically, anything on that, I'm treating this almost like a money line. Like the Ravens don't win by these tiny margins usually. So another one of these LA games where I think it's home field advantage for the other team. There's going to be a lot of Ravens here. I like the Ravens -2.5. If you want a new play I haven't given out already, I like the first half under 25.5 is even odds. To me, this is just a splits thing. Baltimore's defense, 6th in the first half, 25th in the second half. Chargers defense, 2nd in the first half, 16th in the second half, 27th in the fourth quarter. We saw that last week as the Bengals made that huge push coming back. Chargers' first halves on the seasons are averaging under 19 points a game, all but 20 points or less in their first halves. So I think the total going as high as it has is kind of an overreaction to the Chargers game we saw last week. So I like the first half under here, but main play, just give me the Ravens. I think it's a good spot for them.
I like that first half under. That hit tonight. So both LA teams, they'll lose on Sunday Night Football. They'll lose on Monday Night Football. And the road crowds too, Philly and Baltimore. So that makes sense to me. All right, you've got your hot read. 2 picks. What's the first pick you thinking about?
Yeah, hot read. 15-7-1 on the season now. We got 2-0 this week, 68% hit rate. Back to the start of last year, 38-16-2, 70% on the hit rate. So, if you haven't played it yet, Seattle -1.5 at the Jets, still out there. Love that. If you haven't played it yet, Lions -10.5. We grabbed -10. We grabbed Seattle +1.
Still out there.
Those lines haven't moved enough. They're going to keep moving up, I think. So grab those if you haven't. I'm going to play Colts -1.5 at the Patriots. I think that this game is being overlooked as just kind of 2 bad teams, when the reality is it's one really bad team and one just kind of like, team. That's kind of what I think. Patriots, 31-0 today until garbage time. They got 15 points late, made it look not quite as bad. Last week, played Miami, 28-13 until they got 9 points in garbage time to make it look not quite as bad. It's a bad team not playing well. The Colts have lost 6 times. 5 of those losses were to the Texans twice, Packers, Vikings, Bills. That's fine. Those are fine teams to lose to. 4 of those 5 losses were by 1 score. They're hanging around. Now they're also winning by 1 score. There's playing a lot of 1-score games. They're 4-1 against sub-500 teams. Shane Steichen, 7-2 ATS in his career as a favorite, which they obviously are here, and I think we'll get to be more of one. I'm not so worried about the Colts after today. The Lions are just a wagon. Like, that's just going to happen to you. You're going to get hit by the truck sometimes. Last 6 games before today on the stats, Colts' pass defense has actually been pretty good. Their run defense has been a weak spot. Okay, so how about the Patriots? The only thing they've done well is pass the ball. That's going to be negated by the better pass defense here. They are dead last running the ball, so they cannot hurt this bad run defense. They're also dead last pass defense, so Richardson maybe hits a couple of those big passes. And their bottom 5 running defense. That's the real problem, because the Colts are going to run on them, and I think that they will do fine. By DVOA entering the day, run, pass, offense, defense, the Colts ranked anywhere from 14th to 19th. They're just average. They're fine. The Patriots in those metrics, 26th to 31st. They're bad. Fine and bad are not the same thing. Colts are still hanging around. I mentioned the Texans earlier. I think they probably can't quite catch them. 5-7 for the Colts. They got this game. They go at Denver, really big game that they need to have. Tennessee, Giants, Jacksonville to end the season. A little bonus hot read here. Over 8.5 on the win total is plus 176. They need to get 4 wins out of that group. If you like them here and think they have a shot against Denver, this team can still make a push. You never know when Anthony Richardson turns the page a little bit. I don't think they're dead yet. Maybe that's just me trying desperately to find not Texans somewhere in the division, but I certainly will take them here. Colts minus 1.5.
All right, first hot read, fine is not bad is the title there. Second hot read, what do you got?
Second hot read, 7 is too much is the title here. Give me the 49ers plus 7 at the Bills. It's the Sunday night game. It is a big one. I think this line is a huge overreaction to that Niners game from today. Again, we said this before. You're missing Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Trent Williams. I think they're 3 most important players by like a wide margin, all of whom probably should be back. Trent Williams was expected to play. It was a late miss. Brock Purdy was expected to play. He was a late miss. Bosa, we'll see, but I think there's a decent chance they play because you got to have it. The Niners are 5-6. They have to win this game. You mentioned their schedule. You get the Bills, you win that game, then it's Bears, Rams. Those are not easy, but compared to the rest of the schedule, they're easy for the Niners. Like, that's their best shot. You get those games, you're 8-6. Maybe Washington lost another game. Maybe the division's still there. You got a chance if you get those games. They get those guys back. Purdy, Bosa, Williams, maybe Travarius Ward, their top defensive cornerback. I like, too, the run fits here, especially with Trent Williams back and now CMC looking a little better and better each week. San Francisco's run defense, not great. Probably their weakest spot of the team. They tend to be a middle funnel. They're above average there. The Bills want to run power. They want to run up the middle. So I think San Fran matches up pretty well. On the flip side, the Bills are more of an outside funnel. They want to push you to run outside. That's not good against the Niners. This is the number 1 running outside team in the NFL if Trent Williams is out there. So again, I sure hope I'm getting some of these guys back. Obviously, that's the bet here. The Niners, before today, were the number 2 offense on the road. That's guaranteed to drop after that disaster for today. But I like that for them. They're the number 3 defense in the first half. Bills are below league average there. So I think it sets up to have a returning, healthier team, desperate, playing for their season, get off to the on the right foot starting out, and a few trends for you here. The Bills have scored at least 5 straight games. Since 2009, teams in that spot are 41% ATS in their next game. Home favorites of 6 or 6.5, which we're not there yet, but I'm expecting this line to come down. That's why we're playing the hot read. Those teams, the home favorites, only 43% ATS, 3-11 this year has not been a good number for them. And again, we're not here yet on this trend, but I think it gets there. Shanahan, when he's an underdog of under 6 points, where I think this may get to if some of these guys get healthy, 19-7 ATS, 73% covering by almost a full touchdown. I think we're going to get some of these guys back, and that if the injury news looks good, this gets back down to 4, maybe even toward 3 possibly. I think you just got to play a team with this much talent. This big of a line swing. This was -3 a couple days ago. I tweeted out, you can't move the line 4 points. Some of these guys are going to play. The Niners are playing for their season. +7 on the Niners. And give me the money line too. +260. I think they can get the job done and keep the season alive.
This is purely an injury play. I mean, the look-ahead line here was, and when I say look-ahead, I mean look-ahead. Yeah. It was San Francisco -2. So if you think San Francisco is who they should have been in the start, then yeah, 7 is just way too much. All right, look-ahead 1, hot read 2, hot read 1. Fantastic job. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Action Network podcast. This has been the recap episode. Now, this is Thanksgiving week, so we're going to have everything available by Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, from Best Bets pods to Stuckey to Raybon and Kerner. Everyone's going to have everything live for the Thanksgiving slate Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, so look for all the coverage there. And you'll see Brandon and I for Best Bets that night as well. And thank you for listening, and that's a wrap on Week 12.